I'm Physics 101 and I built this particular pinball machine from scratch. You can watch it on YouTube. It's about 86 minutes long and it is entitled How to Build a Pinball from Scratch. It's broken down in about 11 different sections so you get a good idea of what it's like to build a pinball machine. But today I want to spend a little more time on the lighting systems that I actually incorporated, which I didn't do in the video. I put quite a few different lighting systems in this game that makes it much more visually appealing to you. So let me pull out my little chart here and I'm going to show you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about static lights, blinking lights, slow strobe lights, ever-changing lights, cob strobe lights, zone lighting, and color strobe. These are all the various kinds of lighting that I incorporated. They're all going to be LED lighting. You may want to use other kinds of lights, but I found these to be very applicable for what we're trying to do. So the first one we want to talk about is 5mm flat top LEDs. Okay, that's the first one we're going to do, and we're going to do and want to talk about what those are first before we go into anything else. Okay, this is the flat top LEDs. This is a 5mm, and if you notice, this first one right here is a short leaded 5mm, and then this one right here is a long leaded one, which is the one I want you to use. They don't cost any more. And this one, as you can see here, is the same one, long leaded, but I've actually put 22 gauge stranded insulation over it so that I can shrink wrap a lot easier. I did this in over 325 lights and not one of them failed because I did it this way. Okay, we're going to talk about the first topic, which is the back glass. I think it's one of the coolest things to do in your game is to light up your back glass. So let me take this cardboard down here so we can look at my back glass. Now it's not lit up now, and this is kind of the way you want to look when it's lit up. You don't want any of the obstructions to show, any of the wiring, any of the components, any of your circuit boards, you know, anything that might distract from the actual look of the playfield. So the first thing we want to do is figure out how we're going to light this up. Well, the best way I found is use polycarbonate. Now, this is the type of polycarbonate I use. It's very, very thin, and it's very flexible. It's almost impossible to break it, and it's very light. It won't split or crack, and I really like using this for a lot of different applications. This is perfect for this, and you can get this at Home Depot or Lowe's, usually a fairly decent price. You may have to put a couple pieces together to get it to work right. The first thing you want to do is kind of start identifying where you might have issues. And on mine you can see right here that I have scoring reels here. Now you won't probably have those. You'll probably have a circuit board there with a bunch of electronic digits. But either way, and you might have another set over here. Either way, you've got them right up against the glass, and that's going to create a problem. So first thing you want to do is take your piece of polycarbonate, and it'll run all the way across. And what you want to do is figure out where I'm going to have to make some cutting. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to cut a notch out just like this all the way across and take that piece out. That is going to allow me now to fold that piece of polycarbonate back at an angle like this so that I can now get my lighting away from the glass. Now up here I have a similar problem, and I'll show you that as soon as I take the glass out so you can see exactly how we're going to do the wiring. I have a ball count here and also a million count up here. You might have other things like a tilt or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go underneath this part and over that part. That's how I'm going to get to it. And I'm going to mount it on a couple of slats of wood. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this glass out so you can actually see how I'm going to actually do the wiring in this particular application. Okay, now that I've got the glass off, you can kind of see how I've kind of set this up. One of the things you want to do is you want to identify where you want your lighting to be to light up in your particular game. Everybody's going to have a different situation. But you can see you have a very thin piece of polycarbonate here, and you can see right here I've actually cut a notch out here. And actually I actually glued a little piece in here because I want to put another light in right there. But you can see that now I'm actually underneath, as I put my hand behind here, these other two circuit boards here. This one is my ball count right here, and this one up here is my million count. It'll light up. It's a little more complicated board. For if I go over a million points, it'll actually keep track of how many millions I have. You probably won't have that. Now you can see how I've actually put these lights in here, and I want to kind of discuss exactly how we're going to do that. Okay, so you won't have a question about how that is actually done. Okay, the first thing you want to do is to find out exactly where you want your holes to be drilled. And we're going to drill them very simply by using a little block of wood, and I have one right here. And you just want to drill your holes in it the size of the 5mm hole. Now I believe 13/64 is 5mm. You can check that out by just taking one and place it in there just like that. You can see that the lip holds it from falling through. That's kind of what you want to do, okay? So the first thing you want to do is drill all your holes, and here's some sample holes to give you an idea how they might look like. And you can see that they actually go down through the polycarbonate and sticking out the other side. That's what you want. And then of course on top here, what you want here is that lip to be pressed right down, as you can see, right up against the polycarbonate. That's going to allow you to now hot glue them at the end. So the first thing you do is, before you do all this, I want you to insulate like this. All you have to do is cut strips of 22 gauge stranded wire like this in small pieces. I'm going to put one on here just to show how easy it is, and just slide it on there just like that. As you can see, that's really simple to do. Now when you put your shrink wrap on there, and I've got one here just to show you that, you take shrink wrap and just put it on. This is 3/32 by the way. It's what I use about 90% of the time. You can see it's going to shrink wrap really tight around there, and then the solder joint, and then your long lead. Just like you see on over here. I'll turn the lights off now so you can kind of see it a little bit better. Okay? So once you've done that, you want to take all your leads and your LEDs, and you want to insert them into your polycarbonate like this, completely all the way through, nice on a flat surface. Make sure that it's elevated a little bit so that this doesn't pop out, see? Alright? Now once you've done that, all you have to do is take your hot glue gun and put it around the top, as you can see I've done here on all of these, and made kind of like a diamond size glob of hot glue on those. And it'll drip down and stick onto the polycarbonate. So it'll go over the lip and that way. And that way you know they're on there really nice and tight. See how nice and tight these are. Now the next thing you want to do is simply parallel wire them. Now I'm going to show you here. Here's the lead wire. It's kind of an orangey kind of wire. And then I've got two yellow wires here. Those two yellow wires are two leads that I actually soldered on here. If you're using 24 gauge stranded wire, which is what I recommend, you can get two leads on one. All you have to do is your automatic wire stripper and open it up like I did right here, over here, and then solder your two leads on there, and then just take your shrink wrap like this. It's already on your lead. You already have about 20, 30 of them on there, and just slide it right over your connection. Just slide it up like that, and you can see right away you get a real nice tight fitting there. When you shrink wrap that, then you can open up to your next lead and do two more. You'll save a lot on your soldering if you do this in shrink wrapping. So if you got like say 40 lights on there, you only got to do 20 solderings and 20 shrink wraps and you're done. Now when you do the parallel wiring on this, make sure that the lead at the end is long enough so that you can take your piece of polycarbonate out and set it way over here at the end of your play field. That'll allow you to work on the inside of this to put stuff in or fix something. So you want to make it available to be worked on if you have to, and then you can just slide it back in. Now how do we hold that in place? It's very simple, and I want to show you that. Right here, as you can see, I have a little strip of wood over here that runs up at an angle, and you're going to play around with this angle a little bit until you get it just the way you want. I've got another one on the other side, so that way once I get my piece of polycarbonate on there and I'm happy with the angle, I can just put a screw in the top on either side to hold it the angle I want, you see, and then I can put a screw down here and a screw up the top to hold it in place. And that's all you have to do to put a lighting behind your back glass. Alright, the second one I have here is sign. Now, this is something that I always stick in because everybody probably going to end up making a sign for their pinball somewhere along the line. You can see mine here is actually made out of polycarbonate. 3 sheets, and one of them is the letters and the other two are the background and the foreground. So you can make them out almost anything you want. I'll show you a little bit more detail in that when I turn all the lights on for that. So I just want to mention the fact that You can still use your flat top LEDs. I use red and blue ones in this, and I'll turn it on and give you a little showing exactly the front and back how that looks. Okay, you can see my pinball sign here. It's actually got a bunch of different colors showing up in here. Was kind of fun to do. I did a series in this one. I'll try to go around to the back of this a little bit, give you a little idea how I did it with LED calculator. You can see it's a little on the complicated side. I got about 100 lights in here, and using a LED calculator you can figure it out to get exactly the right amount of lights for the different kinds of colors that you're using. Okay, the third one I have here, as you can see, is a light box, and this is my high score. And I tried to use other kinds of application. Turned out a light box works the best. As you can see, I can just take the top off, and I can take the tiles out. These are actually red lights behind here. And I just needed 2 wires and parallel wired it, and worked out really nice. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. And you can see it from quite a distance. And all I did is use tiles with numbers on them and drop them in for the scores. So if you're looking for an easy way to do it, light box is probably the easiest way. Okay, the next one's inserts. This is a really important one because it really gives a lot of information to the player, what's really going on in the game. So no matter what size inserts you have, we want them to light up very, very bright. Most of mine are 1 inch, but I have some 5/8 inch ones too. So what I decided to do is a piece of polycarbonate. You can see I'm going to hold it up very close so you can see it. You can see I insulated a little flat top LED, a 5mm, and you can see that I've insulated with that 22 gauge wire and bent it over and hot glued it on there. And that way I don't have to worry about it ever coming apart or shorting out. Now I can put my insulation my shrink wrap actually right on there with the lead on there, going to wherever it's going to go. And I don't have to worry about this. Now I can turn this upside down and mount this directly under that insert like that and get it perfectly centered, and you'll be able to see that it actually lights that up very well. Now I want to show you another one before I go to the video on it. As you'll notice here, this is for if you want to light up your rollover buttons or your kick out hole. It's just a hole saw, and I cut a little disc out. This is 1 1/4 inch disc, and I cut this slot out with a razor saw. It makes it very, very easy. And then all I have to do then is take the chisel and put it on a little block of wood. I think I've got a little block of wood around here. Yes, I have right here. And you can put that on there just like that. Hit it on either side, wiggle it a little bit, and it'll pop right out. And that's how you can make this. Very, very simple. Now, as you can see here, those inserts are lit up real nice and bright, as you can see. And also, you can also see that rollover button is lit up very nice and bright. I can even move up here to the green ones that are up here at the top. You can see how they're lit up very nice. So that process really works well. So if I pull away from that a little bit, you can get a little idea how nice those LEDs light up those inserts. Okay, we're going to look with the plastic posts now. Now the plastic posts are really kind of cool in the fact that they do a lot of ornate looking design work for your game, but they also support a lot of things. So I have a couple plastic posts here just to show you. I use primarily red ones in mine. You can see that that there's a panel that runs across the top of it. You can see it right there. And then if I pull this away, you can also see the post. That guides this metal post right down the center. Most of you probably know that. These are star posts, by the way. I really recommend these. They have the most amount of colors available. They're 1 1/16 high, and they're fluted. They're very nice and ornate, and they're inexpensive. They're most ones used in pinball games, so this is one I recommend. Now the problem is going to be is that you can't get a flat top LED in there unless it's a little tiny one, and I didn't want to use a tiny one. So I want to use a 5mm one. What I did was, very simply, I'll get a little closer here so you can see this, I put this on a block of wood like this and held it by those long leads that I was talking about. See how that is? And what I did is I just took my Dremel with a little drum sanding wheel on it, and I moved it back and forth like this, nice and level, a few times, very lightly, not very fast, and checked it out. And then what I did is, now it's flat on that side, I can flip it over. And I can do that exactly the same on the other side. What that is going to allow me to do is flatten out this LED without damaging the actual LED itself. Okay, so let me show you how that's actually going to look. Okay, here's lit up LED. Now it's pretty bright, probably a little hard to see, but I can turn it sideways. You can notice it's very bright sideways. It's bright front, which is the way it was designed, but it's actually bright on all sides, which is perfect for what we're trying to applicate. Okay, so here's my flat top LED. Now if I make sure I put it on the inside to the front, you'll notice it looks like it lit up the entire post all the way around. Okay, this is really cool idea, I think, and very inexpensive. It only takes 3 cents. Let's just look at the nice thing about this. First of all, they only cost 3 cents to make. You did it yourself. It runs on 3 volts. All the wiring that we're going to do is inside of where the post is, so no other wiring is going to show, and they don't get hot. So, and they light up terrifically bright, as you can see. So what's not to like about this idea? Now I want to show you how you align these things so you don't have a problem with it. I made a little template here and I'm going to show it to you so you can see what it looks like. Just all you need is a little stiff piece of paper to do this with, okay? As you can see, I've got an arrow on there and I've got a hole in the center and then 2 little tiny holes at the top. Now the reason why I do this, I want to make sure that when I'm aligning this up with the post, that the post is going to light up at the center of where the player is going to be. For instance, if I'm right in the center of the play field, I'm going to have this facing directly, this arrow directly at them. As I move over to the side, I want to keep moving this arrow around and drilling those holes at an angle so that the light is always facing the player. I'm going to demonstrate that for you so that you see what I mean. As you can see here, I'm over here. I'm turning that here, and as I move around, I'm going to keep turning that so that that light is going to be facing where the player is. Otherwise, it's going to look, I'm going to over-exaggerate, it's going to look like this. See how that is? So you want to make sure that those wires are pointed that way. When you make a little template like this, it's really hard to make a mistake. Also, you make sure you put the holes in the right place. It's very simple to do. And you just drill all your holes. Remember, one of the things that you're going to be doing with this lighting that I haven't mentioned is all this wiring that you're going to be doing on this playfield is going to go through your final playfield. It's the only wiring that's going to be done like this. Everything else is done underneath, so you don't have to worry about it if you made a mistake. You just unsolder it and fix it. But on top of here, when you're drilling through your playfield, you want to make sure that all your wiring is put in the right place the first time, because you don't get to fix it because it's a finished playfield. Okay, this is a really cool idea. I think it worked out really well. Okay, the next one is blinking lights, and what we're going to do with blinking lights is we want certain inserts in our game to blink at different times to give some movement to the playfield. We're going to use the same application I did before. I'm going to show this up real close. All it is a piece of polycarbonate, which I've put 1 LED in there, a flat top LED that's insulated, and I'm going to run this to a little circuit board. Now you see all the modern games have lights going everywhere, and if you want to do that, you can do the same thing like this, but it's a little more complicated than what I'm doing. I'm just blinking about 4 or 5 LEDs, and I'm going to turn on the machine and show you how those work to give some movement to the playfield. So I think you should always design your game so there is some movement to the playfield, regardless if you're actually doing anything or not. It really adds to the ambiance of the game. Okay. Okay, we're looking at the blinking lights now. I want to show how those are. You can see that I've got a couple blinking way up in the top, and I've got some blinking down near the bottom. To give some nice movement to the playfield. You see they're all blinking at a little bit different time. I'll zoom in on a few of them so you can kind of see how they blink. And there's one way up at the top there. So no matter what your game is, it's a good idea to get some of your LEDs to blink to give some movement to the playfield. Now the next one here is slow strobe lights. These are kind of cool lights that you can buy, all different sizes, different colors, different speeds. A lot of this are designed for RC aircraft and those little hovercraft and those drones and stuff. It's kind of cool stuff, and they're very inexpensive. You can buy them different sizes. I use blue ones in mine, in slow strobe, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you. You can put them anywhere you want on your game. Just don't overdo it. It will get a little crazy. I only use them on the outside of my game. They strobe in this direction. So what I did is put some silver stars behind them to make them look a little brighter. And we'll now show that video so you can get a little idea. One of the things I want to point out is on these, they strobe on their own. You don't need any circuit boards for them. Use a separate little power supply, and you probably will have to use resistors on these because they're lower voltage than 3 volts, no matter which one you use unless they're white. All the rest of them are low voltage, like I believe the 2.2 volt are red ones, and I'm not quite sure what the blue ones are. In any case, you will have to probably use resistors on them, but you don't have to use a circuit board. So they blink on their own, and they start all at the same time and get very chaotic the more you have. Now, as you can see, you have very small ones here in the front, and as I move around to the side, I have larger ones here, as you can see, and they blink eventually they'll start blinking at different times. So they're pretty cool. Let me get a really close up on one so you can get an idea what they look like. I'll go back over to here and show you these did change now. See, they're now blinking at different times. So a really cool effect for a little effort on your part. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is ever-changing lights. These are really cool. Lots of different applications. These are really light strips is all they are, and they're programmable. So I'm going to use them inside and outside of the cabinet. First one we're going to use is underneath the cabinet, and you get a little kit. It costs about $6.5, $7, very cheap. You don't get a power supply, which is another $4.5 or maybe 11 bucks. You get a transmitter like this, okay? You get a little receivers about this size, and then you get a light strip that looks like this. They're all a little different, so you want to check them out when you get them. You want a thin one like this, okay? Very thin. And of course it has a plug at one end. That's usually about 5 meters that you get of it. The first thing you want to do is on the underside of your cabinet, I'm sure you made your own cabinet. You're going to save a lot of money if you do that. You want to make sure you tack it, make sure there's no dust under there. I mean, I've had some real issues with that before. Make sure there's no dust, and draw yourself a little rectangle under there based on how you think you might want to space this out. Okay, this one's like every 9 you can cut and make it work. So here we are, 18 and then 27. Actually 27 actually fit on mine. See, all right, so you want to cut 2 short pieces and 2 long pieces. All you want to do then on a work surface is take your 24 gauge wire and just connect all those connections and make, don't bend this around. Do what I'm suggesting here, because you don't want this to fall down on you. And if you do it this way, it'll stay nice and flat. And just go ahead and solder the 4 wires like that, little elbows. All 4 on each corner. You only got to do 3 of them. The 4th one's already got a plug on it already, so you don't have to worry about it. Now once you've got it set up, make sure that you have your plug down where your power supply is, because that's where you're going to power in your receiver. And all you do is go underneath your cabinet. I'm going to video that so you can see how that is. And just go ahead and stick it and follow that line all the way around, okay? Make sure that your plug is going to be on the inside. Now once you've done that, I want you to go back and you want to take some of this really sticky 16th inch tape. It's 2-sided tape. Scott makes it, 3M makes it. Make sure, I want to tell you this, I should have told you this on the strip. Make sure you get the oil off your fingers before you handle this stuff. I can feel it on my fingers right now. Take a little rubbing alcohol, a little paper towel, and rub and make sure you get all that oil off your fingers. That way you won't affect the adhesive when you're playing with this, okay? It'll stay sticky. It'll stick to your fingers rather than you ruining the adhesive. But the same thing for this. You won't have to use a razor blade on this stuff. It's so sticky. Cut a little strip and stick it underneath each one of these rows of wires on the 3 corners, okay? And press it up. Don't worry about that you can see it. You're not going to see it anyhow. It's underneath your cabinet, okay? Then the next thing you want to do is take a nice big piece on your receiver, okay? Plug this in and then stick this up on the bottom of your cabinet. This is going to secure it to the bottom of the cabinet. This stuff holds 30 pounds per square inch, so you won't have to worry about it coming off. Then just drill a hole through your bottom of your cabinet and plug in your this receiver to your power. All right, these run on 12 volts, 2 amps usually. Okay. Then when you power it up, you'll notice right away that you're going to have 20 colors to choose from. So any one of these colors are static colors. So if you just want a static color, just press the color and instantly you get that color underneath your cabinet. Okay? But if you want to play around with it, on the bottom here you got jump 3, jump 7, fade 3, fade 7. Now I have grandkids that play with this all the time. They change the colors, do all kinds of crazy things. And then here you'll see these arrows here. It means you got 6 buttons here. You can play around with this thing and get all kinds of crazy combinations. It's really, really cool effect. Okay? Now I'm going to show you the second one before we actually go in onto the video. The second one, what I did, as you can see here, I've cut a strip along here and a strip on the other side using my router. All right, I put a notch in there. And what I did is I used another kind of a strip that's actually encased in a silicone sheath all the way through it. And the reason why I like this is because it kind of protects it, because we are got a lot of dust in here and stuff that goes on. We do vacuum once in a while in here. Be nice, and it's also easier to install. So I want to make sure that groove that I cut in the top of my cabinet here is going to be deep enough that it's going to be about a 1/16 inch deeper than the sheath. That way when I lift up my playfield to work on it or adjust something, I don't rip that strip out. And you can buy the same kind of kit that I'm showing you here and set it up this very same way. And all you have to do is take a silicone sealant. Comes in a little tube. It's clear white. Don't put too much on. Just put a nice bead in the back of it. And when you press it all the way in, press it all the way in to make sure it's recessed behind the edge. And then I just take masking tape, and every inch I put a piece and hold it on there and make sure it's all in there nice and tight. It takes about 24 to 40 hours to 48 hours for it to cure. Once it's cured, all you have to do is power it up, and you can do all kinds of crazy lighting on the inside of your game. It's really, really cool. Now I'm going to videotape that now to show you that. Okay, you can see all the different colors that are projecting underneath the cabinet there. It's a very, very, very cool effect. You can use any kind of colors you want. Now on the top here, you might notice that I have changing for all the different colors of the rainbow running down through my playfield. I'm going to back away a little bit to give you a little idea how neat that effect is. I have it changing colors running down through the playfield, changing from all the various colors of the rainbow. It's really kind of a cool effect. And it runs on its own process. You don't have to worry about it interfering with anything else. So it's a really cool effect, very simple to do. Of course, you got to plan ahead to make sure that works the way you want, but I think it has a really nice effect. Okay, the next one I got listed are COP strobe lights. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever worked with these before. They're extremely bright, almost hard to look at, and get very, very hot. So you got to be very careful how you use these. I use them in a lot of different applications with a lot of heat sinks on them to keep them from burning up. But you can use them in your pinball game if you've got like a pop bumper or a slingshot. And that's what I did. You can buy these little circuit boards. I've got a picture of one because I've got mine already installed. They're very inexpensive. They're only like, I think they're around $1.50 a piece. And as you can see this one, this is an enlarged photograph of one if I hold it so you can see it. You can see the 2 lights that I put in here that we talked about before to light up the underside of the plastic. You can see that. Now, the other thing you'll see is this green circuit board here. But actually, I trimmed it down a little bit to make it fit in here. But that yellow, it's very, very small. That's a Cobb strobe light. It's a white one. Extremely, extremely bright. Gets very, very hot very quickly, so you can't leave them on very long unless you put a heat sink with them. Now what I did, since it works on 5 volts, I didn't have to do much with it, but mount it on a little nylon spacer like we showed before. Okay, and I put one under each one of my slingshots. And what happens when the slingshot is activated, it looks like lightning underneath it. It's very, very bright. We'll be able to demonstrate that in the video to give you a little idea how that is. It's really cool effect if you have something like a slingshot or a pop bumper that you want to actually strobe very, very brightly. It's a choice that you can make that's kind of fun. Very simply to do. You don't have to do anything but install it. And they're about $1.50 a piece, maybe a little bit more than that. So give it a shot if you think that's a good idea for your game. Okay, zone lighting is something you have to kind of plan in advance. And you probably know that I've been doing this all along, but everything's being kind of red in my game. And I'll tell you all the places I've done it. I have red under my plastics. I have red under my red plastic posts, either red. I also put some red light strips behind my ball return and my shooter gauge to add more red to it. So everywhere you look in my game, everything is going to be red, but you don't notice it because the bright lights are actually kind of reducing that influence of the red. So you won't notice that until the lights go off. What I'm going to do now, these side lights that I have that light up the whole playfield very colorfully, I'm going to have a circuit board that's going to turn those off. I'm going to show you the really cool effect that that has when you turn those lights off. And then the last thing I'm going to show is, once that happens, I'm going to show you what we call color strobe. And all that is I'm going to turn these back on, and I'm going to strobe them with a little circuit board, the same one, with a little relay that's going to turn it on and off. Not too fast, but just enough to strobe it enough to give you a really cool effect. I want to show you what that looks like. I'm going to turn the lights down so you can see the effect of it. I'm showing you the game now with all the lights on, so you get a good idea of how all the lights work. You can see all the lights working underneath the cabinet. You can see the lights on the play field. You can see how the back glass is, and also the sign and the high score. So it's very bright. You can see how the lights on the side are really lighting up that play field and changing colors as we go along. Okay, so now we just switched to the red zone, and I wanted to show you the effects of how much darker it is. But you can see that I've lit up around my flipper assemblies and my shooter lane. You can see that very nice and bright there. And also that you can really see a lot of the blinking lights and how the lights in the posts are really lighting up the playfield. That's kind of what we wanted to try to do here before we go to a strobing of the playfield. So you get used to that red zone for a period of time. And what will happen there we go now, is the strobing of the playfield. And that gives a little more challenge to you to play the game while it's strobing. And over a period of anywhere from 22 to 42 seconds, it will go back to all lights on. So it's using a circuit board, I can change the configuration of the lighting. You can see that all the lights have gone back on. So I hope that this is giving you some really good ideas of how you can develop your lighting. Not all the ideas around, but a lot of them. Okay, this is it. This is all the different lightings that I used in the game. I hope that some of these are really good ideas for you to incorporate into your home brew game. It was a lot of fun, very inexpensive. Just take your time and figure out how you can do it for your game. Every game is a little bit different. And I hope you watch my video, How to Build a Pinball from Scratch.